Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. This is going to be 9 of 31 of the Sister Wendy Nelson Challenge, where she challenged the Oklahoma and Kansas Saints to study all of President Nelson's 31 talks since he became prophet, and then after that go back and read them again. So challenge accepted. We are on the final talk of the October 2018 General Conference. It's called Becoming Exemplary Latter-day Saints. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you end up liking it, hit the notification bell, leave comments if you have any thoughts, impressions, things you want to share, additional information, or if you have additional sources of information. Now let's go ahead and get into it. The heading here says, I leave my love and blessing upon you, that you may feast upon the word of the Lord and apply his teachings in your personal lives. Okay, I urge you to study these messages commencing this week. And then there's a footnote, and the footnote says, see General Conference messages online at lds.org, which of course it's not lds.org anymore, but I don't know exactly when it changed, but it's now churchofjesuschrist.org. And on the Gospel Library app. They'll be printed in the Ensign and Liahona, and nowadays it's just the Liahona, another change that came later. The church magazines, including the New Era and the Friend, delivered through the mail or downloaded online, are an important part of your home-centered gospel curriculum. You know, sometimes I think this is because I've done it. Sometimes I've kind of put the church magazines on the back burner, but that really is not a good idea. They put out these magazines on a monthly basis, and there are a lot of good articles that come out of them. And I've done videos on just specific articles that have been in the Ensign that have been incredible. I've done it a number of times now. So there's things that you may be missing if you don't include the church magazines in your study. It's a way to stay up to date with what's going on in the church and what the current focus is. I feel like for the last few months it's really been Second Coming themed, as well as building Zion, avoiding contention, having unity, so forth. So let's move on. The new home-centered, church-supported integrated curriculum has the potential to unleash the power of families, as each family follows through conscientiously and carefully to transform their home into a sanctuary of faith. And I think another word that you can use for sanctuary is temple, right? Make our homes like the temple. They should be. If love is in the home and we have it Christ-centered, it's essentially just as holy as the temple is itself. So home is really important. There's been a shift from kind of like church-centered. We still go to church, of course, every Sunday, but there's been a shift to like really start to, in our homes, teach the gospel and have Christ-centered lives and become disciples of Christ, right? All right, so I promise that as you diligently work to remodel your home into a center of gospel learning, over time your Sabbath days will truly be a delight. I highlighted remodel your home because, well, that's what's going on right now with the Salt Lake Temple. And as you know, in conferences after this, he's basically used the temple, I feel like, as a metaphor for us to prepare for the second coming. It's going under a remodeling or a renovation. Actually have it here. You can see what it looks like as of October 28th, just a few days ago. Today's Halloween. And it's supposed to be done by 2024. They're getting it ready for a big earthquake, should that occur, and we know that it will. We've studied on this channel that during the time of Armageddon and the war and the siege on Jerusalem, there's going to be a great worldwide earthquake, and that comes from the Institute manual and you know, the scriptures themselves. So I imagine that I imagine that he wants to make sure that this temple lasts through the millennium. I'm sure that more modern temples have already had these kind of things put in place to safeguard them against earthquakes and stuff like that. But yeah, so if you think of yourself as the Salt Lake Temple, I think that's what we should be doing with our lives. And in future, future talk, he talks about getting rid of old debris, like what they've been doing with not just the temple, but the surrounding area, Temple Square. Um, Temple Square is actually being extended. We did a video about that, how Elder Davies, who passed away, and I'm not related to him, but we do have the same last name. How this area right here between the church office building and the what's this called? The administration building. Um, there used to be a big fountain right here, which I'm gonna miss because it was pretty amazing. And I've done a lot of photography down in this area back when we lived in the Salt Lake area. I actually used to live right up this street right here. This is these are the avenues. If you go up this way, it goes kind of like up in the mountain, and there's like a neighborhood called the Avenues. You have first, second, third, and it goes up, and then you have A Street, B Street. So it's like a grid of numbers and letters. And for a time, I lived up here, and it was really, really cool. I was able to walk to the temple, and that was a good time in my life. It was like a low point as far as like finances go. We were just like, we were a young family just starting out. But it was still like a really, really great time in my life. Actually, I'm not sure if this is first. This might be second. I can't remember how it goes. I think this is First Avenue, but whatever. It's been a while. So anyway, yeah, they're extending Temple Square because it goes basically out into the Main Street Plaza. It used to be Main Street, but then the church purchased that land, made it a plaza, and they're extending that out so that it's more streamlined and incorporates this whole area. And Elder Davies, he did a conference about that and emphasized how they're extending it out like this. So it's a major renovation. It's not just the temple; it's the whole area around there. Anyway, let's see. Remodel your home, and I would say remodel yourself and your lives. Your children will be excited to learn and to live the Savior's teachings and the influence of the adversary from social media, from society, from traditional media, so forth. So that influence from the world and the influence from the adversary in your life and in your home will decrease. Changes in your family will be dramatic and sustaining. Yes. During this conference, we have strengthened our resolve to execute the essential effort to honor the Lord Jesus Christ every time we refer to his church. And of course, he's talking about the correct name of the church. I myself have changed the name of my channel after going over that last talk because the main point was the problem with the nicknames was removing Jesus Christ out of it, because you don't have Jesus Christ in Mormon, you don't have Jesus Christ in LDS or Latter-day Saints. So I changed the name of my channel to Christian Homestead. I think that's good. That way, anyone that's not familiar with our church, they're going to know where I stand and that this is a Christian-centered channel, right? So I promise you that our vigorous attention to use the correct name of the Savior's church and its members will lead to increased faith and access to greater spiritual power for members of his church. And I already almost kind of feel like I'm kind of feeling that with the change in the name of my channel. So I hope that it does some good, but it's gonna, yeah, look at this. He's saying rigorous attention. Rigorous attention. Okay. Consider the great mercy and fairness of God, who, before the foundation of the world, provided a way to give temple blessings to those who died without a knowledge of the gospel. These sacred temple rites are ancient. When he said this the first time, this always stuck in my mind. Just because it's interesting. This channel isn't really going to go too much in that direction, but they are ancient. To me, that antiquity is thrilling and another evidence of their authenticity. And then it goes to footnote 2, which the references for these entire chapters here, Exodus chapter 28, Exodus chapter 29, Leviticus 8. And I took the liberty to pull those up, and I would like to just read the chapter heading, and you'll see what I mean, okay? So we're talking about the temple rites being ancient, okay? So Exodus 28, Aaron and his sons are to be consecrated and anointed, okay? Obviously, right there, that should stand out to you. Aaron and his sons are to be consecrated and anointed to minister in the priest office. Aaron's garments are to include a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a coat, a mitre or mitre, I don't know, and a girdle. The breastplate of the judgment is to contain 12 precious stones with the names of the tribes of Israel thereon. The Urim and Thummim are to be carried in the breastplate. I pulled up some different images, mostly from the Temple Institute, because they have they've recreated this for when the third temple is constructed and operating. They have the clothes ready for both the priests and then also the high priest. And this, of course, right here would be the high priest and that breastplate with the stones. So, it shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody if they're familiar with these things, like what the temple was like back in ancient times, speaking about the tabernacle during the Exodus, and then Solomon's temple, and then the second temple during Christ's time. It shouldn't be any surprise when we go into a temple today, the way that we dress in there. Here is a close-up of the ephod. I think it's pronounced ephod. The ephod of the high priest. It has all the different things here. 2 onyx stones on the shoulders. Ephod rings. Where are the ephod rings? It's like part of this right here, I guess. 2 gold chains, shoulder pieces, so the chains come down here to hold up the this right here. Breastplate, gold rings, belt, a large belt that goes around. And then here's the stones here. Let's move on to the next image. Now, I think I read somewhere that because it's not really clear, I don't think, from reading the Bible exactly what these gemstones are, but these people are really learned, the Jews, and they're experts and stuff. So I guess this is what they settled on, or what they know. I don't know, but we have I'm guessing it's going from left to right. I have no idea. It says right here, the 12 breastplate stones from right to left. Okay, because they read that way in Hebrew. So starting here, going to the left. So ruby for Reuben, emerald for Simeon, agate for Levi, right here, aquamarine for Judah, right here, sapphire for Issachar, right here, quartz crystal, that's boring, for Zebulon, which would be right here, lapis lazuli for Dan, never heard of that before, smoky topaz for Naphtali, right here, amethyst for Gad, right here, crystallite for Asher, right here, onyx for Joseph, right here, and then opal for Benjamin. So I suppose that Joseph, because you have Ephraim and Manasseh that come from him, so I guess both of them would share the onyx stone. And I guess onyx, that's the same as up here. These look like they're white. I don't know if there's different colors of onyx, but that's kind of interesting that Joseph has the onyx stone, and then you have the 2 onyx stones that are up here on the shoulders. I just want to keep going here. So we got the turban, the crown. This would have had the holiness to the Lord on the forehead, right? Onyx stones, linen tunic, ephod, which I guess is this kind of like waist belt type thing. Urim and Thummim inside the breastplate itself on the front, blue robe, And they did it all exactly how it's supposed to be done with the exact dyes and everything that they would have used in ancient times. So this is not just like modern technique to make this clothes. Um, Golden bells and pomegranates, linen pants, and then crown. I guess is like the same. This is the same crown. I don't know. And then here you have just some of the Kohanim or the priests, right? You recognize this this type of trumpet right here. This is what the angel Moroni has, or at least it looks very similar. Of course, they also blow the shofar, which is a ram's horn. They do that for Rosh Hashanah and I think other occasions. I'm still trying to learn about that, but just look how they're dressed. They're wearing robes. They have kind of like these things around their waist, and then they have these white hats. All right, and then here, this is where they did like oh, I don't know the exact story behind this, but excuse me, I know that they consecrated the altar for the temple. Um, and they did, I think, the first animal sacrifice since the time of the second temple. Don't quote me on all that. That's just kind of roughly what I remember being said. Um, Here they are doing, I assume, kind of a blessing. I've seen them do, I've seen the Kohanim, which are Levites, give blessings during, they did it while I was watching the Rosh Hashanah services. I was watching the Park Avenue, or wait, yeah, it's called the Park Avenue Synagogue in New York. It's by Central Park. And you weren't supposed to like look at the Kohanim while they were giving a blessing. They put like a kind of like a sheet or some kind of like veil over them, and then they put their hands up like this, and you're not supposed to look at them. And then they have some like movements and stuff and whatever. Um, in fact, you can see here the shape that he has his hands in right here, this guy. This is where the live long and prosper came from on Star Trek, because what's his name? Leonard Nimoy, I think that's his name, Spock. He is actually Jewish, and he was the one that introduced this into Star Trek. It comes from the Kohanim. He thought it was just a great symbol to use. So you see this, and of course, I don't know how you look at this and then you look at our church and call us a cult. Especially since we claim to be related to what's going on here. But whatever. So just take a good look. Good look at modern day Jews and what they're doing, and the priests. Here's another thing. I don't know what this is from, but just I thought that I'd show this picture here. Take a look at the hat. And then these next ones come from the church website. I didn't see, let's see, Old Testament Seminary curriculum. Okay, so it's just they took pictures for that. So again, this is the high priest clothing, and then Kohanim or the Levites, right? Okay, so that's it for that. I just thought it'd be fun to pull that up if you haven't seen that already. And I'll put all these links down in the description below. That way you can easily just go to that if you want to look at it closer. My dear brothers and sisters, the assaults of the adversary are increasing exponentially in intensity and in variety. What? I didn't mean to click on that. Our need to be in the temple on a regular basis has never been greater. Okay, let's read that again. Our need to be in the temple on a regular basis has never been greater. And why is that? Well, he just said that. It's because the attacks are coming at an exponential rate and in great variety. And why do you think that is? Well, I think it's because the second coming is almost here. It's the it's the fourth quarter. It's like the 2-minute warning, in my opinion. So I plead with you to take a prayerful look at how you use your time. There it is again. How many times does he and other general authorities talk about distractions? This is like I think this is a relatively recent phenomena of like how often they're talking about distractions and how you use your time. Yeah, okay. Invest your time in your future and in that of your family. If you have reasonable access to a temple, I urge you to find a way to make an appointment regularly with the Lord, uh, to be in His holy house. Then keep that appointment with exactness and joy. I promise you that the Lord will bring the miracles He knows you need as you make sacrifices to serve and worship Him in His temples. So, um, not only are the attacks of the adversary increasing, but times are getting crazy. Um, there's a lot of kind of instability and insecurity and a lot of movement in the world. So it would probably be a good idea to take advantage of these miracles and blessings that we can receive by going to the temple. Um, with the passage of time, temples are inevitably in need of refreshing and renewal. To that end, plans are now being made to renovate and update the Salt Lake Temple and other pioneer generation temples. Yeah, yep. They're deciding to do it now. And again, this one's going to be completed by 2024, which happens to be the year that the second great American eclipse is going to happen, the one that goes over Palmyra and Kirtland and completes the X over America between the, roughly 7 years after that first eclipse that went over Jackson County, Missouri, in Adam-ondi-Ahman. So that's probably something to think about, isn't it? That's probably something to think about. Um, and he keeps using that as imagery for us, like applying it to us and what we need to do as well. So today we are pleased to announce plans to construct 12 more temples. I always find this kind of interesting, the number, since he's been president, of how many temples he announces, because they seem to be like interesting numbers, like 7, 12, 20. I think 13 was how many he announced this last time. And I'm not saying necessarily that there's anything to that, but there could be, kinda. I don't know. Of course, obviously you think the 12 tribes of Israel. 13, you also think of the 12 tribes of Israel, because in reality, if you include Levi and you include the two sons of Joseph, there's 13 total. There's 12 land tribes, there's 12 sons, like literal sons of Israel, but if you make way for all of them, Levi and Ephraim and Manasseh, there's 13. Those temples will be built in the following locations: Mendoza, Argentina; Salvador, Brazil; Yuba City, California; Phnom Penh, Cambodia, which that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit; Praia, Cape Verde. I'm pretty sure that this is off the African coast and therefore an African country. I should know better, but let me just verify. Yeah, okay. So it's this one over here. Okay. So that's kind of big. So Cambodia and Cape Verde, that's kind of big. Yigo, Guam. I don't think there had been one in Guam before now. I'm not sure. Puebla, Mexico; Auckland, New Zealand; Lagos, Nigeria. I highlight that because we've mentioned several times now in my 10 Lost Tribes playlist that there seems to have been some of the 10 Lost Tribes that went to Nigeria, and there's traditions of that, and I'm going to do a separate video at some point. I'm going to cover all these different groups that have some kind of claim that they descend from Israel, because I tend to believe them. I do. Some have more substance to their claim, but I give all of them kind of the benefit of the doubt. All right, Davao, Philippines. We've talked about the Philippines and how that for some reason that's just like a really strong part of the church. We have a lot of members there and a lot of temples. San Juan, Puerto Rico; and Washington County, Utah. If we go over here to churchofjesuschristtemples.org, you can see all the temples here throughout the world. And here's that one in Cape Verde that we were just talking about. It's interesting. We have Madagascar right here. I think this is the Kenya temple. I think this is Mozambique. if I remember right, down here. There's a lot going on in Africa all of a sudden. And when I say all of a sudden, I think back to when I was on my mission, back from 2004 to 2006, and at that time there were only three temples in Africa: Johannesburg, South Africa, Aba, Nigeria, and Accra, Ghana, and that was it. That look how far we've come in that time, in that short amount of time with Africa, and especially this portion of West Africa, which there were a lot of Nigerians and Ghanaians that were in Spain to work. We came across them on a regular basis. We've talked about the British Empire and the effect that it's had on Africa, and these places where these temples are tend to be where Britain was mostly, but also France and Portugal. Um, here's the Philippines over here, just popping off, pretty crazy. We got Cambodia, and then, gosh dang it, what's the other one? Oh yeah, there's gonna be Bangkok, Thailand, India. Just my gosh, you guys, it's crazy. What are things gonna look like in another 5, 10 year, 1 year? Who the heck knows? Um, anyway, interesting things are happening. Uh, to those, okay, to those who have long been absent from the temple, which I was until recently when we went to the Oklahoma City temple, but for like a few years I had not been to the temple, and it was kind of hard when we were in the army. Um, Probably not a very good excuse. I should have gone more, but I'm consciously making an effort to go to the temple. And I'd like to go to the Kansas City temple, but it's further than the Oklahoma City temple, which is only 2.5 hours away. But I want to keep going more, and I hope that you do too, because he says, I encourage you to prepare and return as soon as possible. As soon as possible. You guys, we need, I think, to do as much work as possible before the second coming, because there are people that would be able to be resurrected right away as soon as the resurrection happens. I just did a video about how, according to this one scripture in D&C, it makes it seem as though, well, it flat out says that Michael, Adam, he's going to blow a horn. I don't know if that's literal or figurative, probably figurative, which will essentially initiate the second coming, or I mean not the second coming, the resurrection, and also the quickening in the translation. So we want to get as many people get their work done as soon as possible so that they can then be resurrected and join us at that time, right? We don't have very much time, I don't think, before that happens. And it may be that we get special blessings when we go to the temple, even though we're doing work for other people that are passed on. There might be things that we receive that maybe we're not even aware of while we're there. Or we could have received special knowledge or something in the temple. So he's saying back in 2018, return as soon as possible. So we are now at the end of 2021. So if you haven't, definitely get there. Get there right now. Okay, then I invite you to worship in the temple and pray to feel deeply the Savior's infinite love for you, that each of you may gain your own testimony that he directs this sacred and ageless work. That takes us to footnote 4. Now this is an interesting one, okay? It says, see Wilford Woodruff, The Law of Adoption. Discourse delivered at the General Conference of the Church, April 8th, 1894. President Wilford Woodruff said, we have not got through with revelation. We have not got through with the work of God. That's an interesting way of phrasing that. There will be no end to this work until it is perfected. So it's called the Law of Adoption. That kind of piqued my interest. So you know what? I found it. I pulled it up, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to go over some of my highlights from this with you. Okay, and I would encourage you to read this on your own. Again, I will put everything in the description below so you can go directly there and check it out yourself. Okay, so this is on the BYU Idaho. I think at BYU-I, that's BYU Idaho So anyway, it's on that website, and it has the whole thing here. Okay, I'm just going to go over the parts that stood out to me. The first of which is this right here. Okay. Um, now, okay, sorry, to give you some context, I don't think I really knew about this, or maybe I had heard of this at one time, but so in the early church, I guess what they were trying to do is people were trying to be adopted by Joseph Smith. And when I say adopted, I mean like spiritually adopted and be sealed to him, because um, they had the sense that they needed to, that the sealings, they all needed to be connected, right? And Joseph Smith being the first one, um, or the head of this dispensation, everyone was trying to make sure that they were like in the network, you know. Um, so there was like this law of adoption, and the general authorities and the president of the church, Wilford Woodruff, have been thinking about it quite a bit, and came up with this here. Okay, so let me get a little drink of water before I start reading all this. Okay, thus you have before you the subject which is resting upon us, and which we wish to present to the Latter-day Saints. Let me say that the age has that age has very little to do with revelation. In the early age of the world, old Father Adam, 3 years previous to his death, he being nearly 1,000 years of age, called together his posterity in the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. Uh, I just think it's interesting that it's probably not the main point of why President Nelson referenced this article here, or this talk, but maybe he just wants to give us a little hint that Adam-ondi-Ahman is coming up. And he stood upon his feet for hours, clothed with the power of God and the revelations of heaven, and blessed his posterity, some 7 of whom, each representing a generation, were high priests. Among them were Enoch, Methuselah, both great men of their day and generation. He prophesied unto them that what should transpire with their posterity unto the end of time. His old age did not have any effect whatever upon the revelations of God to him. Joseph Smith, when 14 years of age, while calling upon God in the wilderness, had the heavens opened unto him. Okay, so this talk here, it references Adam-ondi-Ahman. It's talking about when it happened the first time, but we know that there's going to be a second conference, and that should be coming up, I think, unless I missed it, and I hope that you guys will let me know if I did. Should be coming up soon. Okay. Okay, then he talks about here how Joseph Smith had like done so much as far as just like everything that he restored. He worked with the endowments, he did the translation of the Book of Mormon, he received the Doctrine and Covenants, he did all these things. And so he says, in fact, it is a marvel and wonder that he performed as much as he did. I want to say, as the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that we should now go on and progress. We have not got through Revelation. Now this is interesting because this goes along with what President Nelson has said, that the restoration is not over. It's a continual process. So Wilford Woodruff says, we have not got through Revelation. We have not got through the work of God. But at this period, we want to go on and fulfill this commandment of God given through Malachi, that the Lord should send Elijah the prophet, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Ye sons of men, I say unto you, in the name of Israel's God, those very principles that God has revealed are what have stayed the judgments of the Almighty on the earth. Were it not for these principles, you and I would not be here today. Yeah, so essentially it seems like if it wasn't for this work that needs to be done, sealing, temple work, so forth, God would just wipe everyone off the face of the earth, and just we would all be screwed. That's what I get out of it. We've had the prophets and apostles. President Young, who followed President Joseph Smith, led us here. He organized these temples and carried out the purposes of his calling and office. He laid the foundation of this great temple on this block, as well as others in the mountains of Israel. What for? That we might carry out these principles of redemption for the dead. He accomplished all that God required at his hands. But he did not receive all the revelations that belonged to this work. Neither did President Taylor, nor has Wilford Woodruff. There will be no end to this work until it is perfected. So things are going to keep going, being perfected. There's going to continue to be changes. So we shouldn't be surprised when there's changes in the endowment or initiatory, or I don't think there's been change. Well, whatever. No, there has been in the past. Let's not be surprised when that happens. Okay. I never met with any, excuse me, I never met with anything in my life in this church that there was more unity upon than there was upon that principle. They all feel right about it, and that is our duty. That is one principle that should be carried out from this time henceforth. But, says one, okay, so that's so I should have highlighted more. So basically, what happened was, I think it was him. He wasn't feeling right about it, about people being adopted to apostles or prophets or whatever, that they should be adopted by their father, adopted in a sealing sense. That even though their father, their mother may not have been members of the church, because of the spirit world, they may just change and accept the gospel in the spirit world. So for right now in this life, let's get ourselves sealed to our parents and also to those who have passed on, even though they weren't members of the church. Whereas before there was some, debate about whether, and basically it seemed like the policy at the time was, if that person was not a member of the church, then it doesn't matter if it's your wife, your husband, your father, your mother, you wouldn't get sealed to them. But that changes here, okay, with this talk. But, says one, suppose we come along to a man who perhaps is a murderer. Well, if he is a murderer, drop him out and connect with the next man beyond him. So if your father is a murderer, then you'll then go on to be sealed to your grandfather. But the Spirit of God will be with us in this matter. We want the Latter-day Saints from this time to trace their genealogies as far as they can, and to be sealed to their fathers and mothers. Have children sealed to their parents, and run this chain through as far as you can get it. When you get to the end, let the last man be adopted to Joseph Smith, who stands at the head of this dispensation. This is the will of the Lord to this people, and I think when you come to reflect upon it, you'll find it to be true. Okay, so no more just directly being adopted to apostles or someone that's a member of the church. Do your genealogy, get yourself sealed to whoever are your ancestors, and then things will they're going to work out. And it'll go, I guess for our dispensation, it'll go back to Joseph Smith, him being the first of this dispensation, essentially. I think that's how the logic goes. So it'll be with your fathers. There will be very few, if any, who will not accept the gospel. Now, I don't know when he says that if he's talking just about the church at that time, just because it was a different time, a different place, and maybe some of them were familiar with the church, or I don't know if he's like saying that for all ages of time. I kind of tend not to think so because, well, I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. Maybe you can let me know your opinion. So it'll be with your fathers. There will be very few, if any, who will not accept the gospel. Jesus, while his body lay in the tomb, went and preached to the spirits in prison, who were destroyed in the days of Noah. After so long an imprisonment in torment, they doubtless gladly embraced the gospel. Okay, so I guess he is referring to just any age of time. And if so, they will be saved in the kingdom of God. The fathers of this people will embrace the gospel. It is my duty to honor my father who begot me in the flesh, it is your duty to do the same. When you do this, the Spirit of God will be with you, and we will continue this work, the Lord adding light to that which we have already received. I have had friends adopted to me. that's kind of weird, but cool. We all have more or less. But I have had peculiar feelings about it, especially lately. There are men in this congregation who wish to be adopted to me. I say to them today, if they can hear me, go and be adopted to your fathers, and save your fathers, and stand at the head of your father's house, as saviors upon Mount Zion, and God will bless you in this. This is what I want to say, and what I want carried out in our temples. The Almighty is with this people. We shall have all the revelations that we will need if we will do our duty and obey the commandments of God. When any of us get so that we cannot receive these revelations, the Lord will take us out of the way and put someone in our place who can. That's interesting. Now, so if you're wondering about any of the apostles, if you're wondering about general authorities, if you're wondering about the prophet, just remember what he says here, that if they stop receiving revelations, presumably if they start misleading the church, the Lord will take them out of the way. And I feel like there's been kind of a lot of wondering about the prophet with certain things lately, certain topics, and just, I think that we should listen to what Wilford Woodruff said. I really do not think that they are going to mislead us, or will even be able to mislead us without God acting first. When you get to the last man in the lineage, as I said before, we will adopt that man to Joseph Smith, and then the prophet Joseph will take care of himself with regards to where he goes. A man may say, I'm an apostle, or I'm a high priest, or I'm an elder in Israel, and if I'm adopted to my father, will it take any honor from me? Like if the father is not a member of the church. I would say not. If Joseph Smith was sealed to his father, with whom many of you were acquainted, that's kind of crazy. Wouldn't it be crazy to be in a general conference where there were people that actually had met Joseph Smith, or his father? What effect will that have upon his exaltation and glory? None at all. Joseph Smith will hold the keys of this dispensation to the endless ages of eternity. Okay, gosh, stop it. Those of you who stand here, I do not care whether you are apostles or what you are. By honoring your fathers, you will not take any honor from your heads. You will hold the keys of the salvation of your father's house, as Joseph Smith does. You will lose nothing by honoring your fathers and redeeming your dead. It is a glorious work. When I returned from England in 1841 and heard Joseph Smith give this revelation, that we had power to redeem our dead, one of the first things I thought was, I have a mother in the spirit world. My father was in the flesh. I baptized and ordained him and brought him up to Zion, where he was buried. But I never saw my mother to know her. She died when I was an infant. I had power to seal my mother to my father. Was this not satisfaction? And then down here, it says, previous to the opening of the April General Conference, the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 met and discussed the proposed changes to be made to sealing ordinances in the temple. Abraham H. Cannon, a member of the Quorum of the 12, recorded in his journal what President Woodruff said. So down here, the Lord has told me that if it is right for children to be sealed to their parents. What? The Lord has told me that it is right for children to be sealed to their parents, and they to their parents, just as far back as we can possibly obtain the records, and then have the last obtainable member sealed to Joseph Smith, who stands at the head of this dispensation. It is also right for wives whose husbands never heard the gospel to be sealed to those husbands, providing they are willing to run the risk of their receiving the gospel in the spirit world. There is yet very much for us to learn concerning the temple ordinances, and God will make it known as we prove ourselves ready to receive it. In searching out my genealogy, I found about 400 of my female kindred who were never married. I asked President Young what I should do with them. He said for me to have them sealed to me unless they were more than 999 of them. Oh no. Oh no. That that doctrine startled me. Why would that startle you? But I had it done. Oh my gosh. Okay. I guess in heaven it doesn't make a difference. It's not the same as here on earth. Um, that makes me cringe a little bit, but that's not my problem. When in St. George, I found I had more dead for whom I desired to do work than I could possibly attend to. I had none of my family with me, and one day the Lord told me to get the young people of that city to give me a birthday present by coming into the temple and being endowed for my dead. President Young approved of the plan, and in this way I got my work done. Some of President Young's family helping me to do it. Um, okay. President Nelson, he referenced this article, okay? And if we go back here and we read what he originally said before this footnote, he simply says, I invite you to worship in the temple and pray to feel the Savior's infinite love for you, that each of you may gain your own testimony that he directs this sacred and ageless work. So I guess the main reason why he would be referencing this loaded talk from Wilford Woodruff is because it's an ageless work, and that's what he says in there, that there will be no end to this work until it's perfected. But I think that he intentionally, all of them, if you reference something, you're running the risk, or you're maybe wanting that person who's doing the research to go to that article and read the whole thing. So if we look at it from that point of view, we're talking about Adam-ondi-Ahman, which is probably going to happen soon, I would imagine, within years, if not 5 or 10 years. And we're talking about issues of being sealed, right? So this is a situation where there was like questions and kind of some confusion about how sealing should be done in regards to adoption and where you fit in the chain and the network. So they received revelation, they put it out to the church, and that's how it is to this day, essentially. Now, could this happen again in the future? So here's the thing. The thing that I want to point out here is he talked about how a wife could be sealed to her husband who wasn't a member of the church and just run the risk that that person doesn't receive the gospel. I'm pretty darn sure, you guys, that if that was the case, if the husband doesn't accept the gospel, that woman would be able to remarry and be sealed to somebody that is worthy of temple marriage, right? And the thing that we know that's coming up with the second coming is that the church, it's not everybody is celestial material, okay? We know that there are wise virgins, there are foolish virgins, we know that there are wheat, we know that there are tares, we know that there are true disciples, and we know that there are Pharisees, or in other words, fakers, people that don't really have the gospel in their hearts, they're just going through the motions for other reasons, usually for social reasons. So I've kind of touched on this before, but when this happens, okay, when there's the final divide, when the wicked, all those who are telestial level, when we move forward and they don't come with us into the millennium, and there's only terrestrial and celestial, Um, that's probably going to make for some emotional situations, because that means that there's going to be friends, there's going to be family, there's going to be spouses, most likely, parents, grandparents that aren't going to be going with us. You may think that, oh, on the outside someone is good and they do everything correctly, but um, the Lord knows your heart, and He knows who you really are and the real reason why you do things. And He knows the Pharisees that are among us today. He knows the ones that are not true, that are just using the church as a mask or as their facade. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind as we go forward, that there's probably going to be a shakeup in families, um, in marriages even. But no matter what happens, I don't think anyone's going to be uh, left out in the cold. You know, if you're someone that was married to someone that isn't worthy of you, that's not able to take you to the celestial kingdom, there is going to be, you will still have that chance to get with somebody that can, right? Um, and then if you have a parent or whatever that doesn't make it, you're going to have someone that adopts you, just like it's kind of talking about here. Um, you know, it may be your grandfather, your grandma. It might be your great 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 grandpa. Like who the heck knows how it's going to go, but it's all going to essentially work out in the end. And all that we're instructed to do right now is do our genealogy, do all the work as though everyone was going to go to the celestial kingdom. And then once judgment time comes, that's when it's all going to get sorted out. But as long as you do everything right, I'm pretty darn sure that you'll be able to have all your blessings, and there will be somebody for you, whether it's a spouse or whether it's a parent or whatever, and you'll be okay. To finish this off here, we have, following the remarks of President Wilford Woodruff, President George Q. Cannon arose and said, "I am thankful for what has been revealed. This matter has weighed for a long time on my mind. There has been a disposition since the days of Nauvoo for men to seek to add to their future kingdoms by having dead persons sealed and adopted to them. Now, however, the danger of clannishness and divisions is averted, and we can show respect to the parents which God gave us, and through whom we doubtless chose to come before we were born into this world." So, just talking about the fact that it seems like there was probably some organization, and the reason why you're in a certain family, it's probably not just random. Of course, we don't know all the details, but according to him, he thinks that probably we chose our parents before we came to this world. Um, and then as far as like clannishness and divisions and so forth, I think that if you're looking for power and you're looking for influence and you're looking for clout, um, your heart probably isn't in the right place to begin with. But anyway, George Q. Cannon feels good about this change, and I think it's good too. And then to finish off this whole thing, President Nelson says, "I assure you that revelation continues in the church and will continue until the purposes of God shall be accomplished, and the great Jehovah shall say, the work is done." That's going to be it for this. I hope you enjoyed this one. I feel like it's really eye-opening going through all these talks, just the recurring themes, the very specific wording, and the messages. It's serious. It's serious. I'm glad that Sister Nelson challenged us to do this, and I hope that you'll continue with me as we go through all 31. And then after that, after 31, we'll keep going, and maybe we'll even go before number 1, and we'll go to all of his talks while he was an apostle. So I'll leave it right there. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, hit the notification bell. Leave your comments with any impressions, thoughts, sources for additional information that you may have, and I'll talk to you guys later.